So the whole idea of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was that devotees would take in this nectarian knowledge and then also give it to as many people as possible. And it's actually a painstaking process to make arrangements to disseminate the knowledge. It's not that it comes in one fell swoop and people immediately get it. And even those who do get it already have habits and some scars from previous lives, and they may make U-turns, reversals, stops, detours, and so forth, which can also be disheartening. When we were visiting our very dear friends in Washington, D.C., Loka and Vidarbha, we were talking all about this whole subject matter of what it takes to actually form a community of devotees or a small group of devotees and take the time to assist them in advancing in devotional service. And it really takes a Herculean effort. In fact, even today I was reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada mentioned that to get Krishna to come down was a combined effort, a collaborative effort. He said Brahma's a jiva, so he was involved, and then there are all these other demigods, and then there's Vishnu Tattva, Shira Dakshai Vishnu was there, and then there's also Krishna, who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the energies there, what it took for Krishna to make his appearance, they were working together. It wasn't just Krishna alone, but the will and the efforts of all the different energies of Krishna to bring him to the world were in play. So in a similar way, while we're living together and cooperating for the sake of becoming pleasing, making a pleasing offering to Krishna of ourselves and to assist others in doing the same thing, we will work together and use the strengths of all the different devotees in concert in order to achieve that end. And that is the most satisfying use of the human energy, how to do that. So today, I want to keep moving forward. I like the catching momentum before a big appearance day. Couldn't be any bigger with Janmashtami coming up, so we have a point in time to which we can fix our determination for going ahead with increased hearing and chanting, and specifically going through the 10th canto and hearing again about the appearance of Krishna. So I read in the Krishna book the last few days. We read after the Sunday program the preface, and then we read over the phone the introduction, and also chapter 1, I believe. And that brings us up to chapter 2, and and let's see what it is in the Krishna book. Yep, it's prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. So there's a series of prayers here, and if you'll allow me, I'm going to read through the Krishna book story, and then we'll go into some of the selected verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can have more discussion and go into more detail. Does that sound like a good plan? Yeah? Okay. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Chapter 2 of the Krishna book. Prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. That made it worse. That doesn't look good. You take them to the car wash. It's just that they're scratched, that's all. King Kamsa not only occupied the kingdoms of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Antaka dynasties and the kingdom of Shurasena, but he also made alliances with all the other demoniac kings. As follows: the demon Pralamba, demon Baka, demon Chanura, demon Trinavarta, demon Aghasura, demon Mushtika, demon Arishta, demon Dvidvid, demon Putana, demon Keshi, and demon Dhenuka. At that time, Jarasandha was the king of Magadha province, known at present as Bihar state. Thus, by his demoniac policy, Kamsa consolidated the most powerful kingdom of his time under the protection of Jarasandha. He made further alliances with such kings as Banasura and Bhaumasura. With who? Banasura and Bhaumasura. Until he was the strongest. Avantika, how many arms did Banasura have? How many arms did he have? Homework. Then he began to behave most inimically toward the Yadu dynasty into which Krishna was to take his birth. Being harassed by Kamsa, the kings of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Antaka dynasties began to take shelter of different states, such as the state of the Kurus, the state of the Panchalas, and the states known as Kekai, Shalva, Vidarbha, Nishada, Videha, and Koshala. Kamsa broke the solidarity of the Yadu kingdom, as well as the Bhoja and Antaka. He made his position the most solid within the vast tract of land, known at that time as Bharatavarsha. When Kamsa was killing the 6 babies of Devaki and Vasudeva, one after another, many friends and relatives of Kamsa approached him and requested him to discontinue these heinous activities. But all of them became worshippers of Kamsa. When Devaki became pregnant for the 7th time, a plenary expansion of Krishna known as Ananta appeared within her womb. Devaki was overwhelmed with both jubilation and lamentation. She was joyful, for she could understand that Lord Vishnu had taken shelter within her womb. But at the same time, she was sorry that as soon as her child would come out, Kamsa would kill him. At that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, being compassionate upon the Yadus, who were fearful due to the atrocities committed by Kamsa, ordered the appearance of Yogamaya, his internal potency. Krishna is the Lord of the universe, but he is especially the Lord of the Yadu dynasty. Yogamaya is the principal potency of the personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is stated that the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has multi-potencies. Parashashaktir vividaiva shruyate. All the different potencies are acting externally and internally, and Yogamaya is the chief of all potencies. The Lord ordered the appearance of Yogamaya in the land of Rajabhumi, in Vrindavan, which is always decorated and full with beautiful cows. In Vrindavan, Rohini, one of the wives of Vasudeva, was residing at the house of King Nanda and Queen Yashoda. Not only Rohini, but many others in the Yadu dynasty were scattered all over the country due to their fear of the atrocities of Kamsa. Some of them were even living in the caves of the mountains. The Lord thus informed Yogamaya, "Under the imprisonment of Kamsa are Devaki and Vasudeva, and at the present moment my plenary expansion Shesha is within the womb of Devaki. You can arrange the transfer of Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. After this arrangement, I am personally going to appear in the womb of Devaki with my full potencies. Then I shall appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, and you shall appear as the daughter of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. Since you will appear as my contemporary sister, and since you will quickly satisfy desires for sense gratification, people within the world will worship you with all kinds of valuable presentations, incense, candles, flowers, and offerings of sacrifice. People who are after materialistic perfection will worship you under the different forms of your expansions, which will be named Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijayi, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. Krishna and Yogamaya appeared as brother and sister, the supreme powerful and the supreme power. Although there is no clear distinction between the powerful and the power, power is always subordinate to the powerful. Those who are materialistic are worshippers of the power, but those who are transcendentalists are worshippers of the powerful. Krishna is the supreme powerful, and Durga is the supreme power within the material world. Actually, people in the Vedic culture worship both the powerful and the power. There are many hundreds and thousands of temples of Vishnu and Devi, and sometimes they are worshipped simultaneously. The worshipper of the power, Durga, or the external energy of Krishna, may achieve all kinds of material success very easily, but anyone who wants to be elevated transcendentally must engage in worshiping the powerful in Krishna consciousness. The Lord also declared to Yogamaya, "My plenary expansion Ananta Shesha is within the womb of Devaki. On account of being forcibly attracted to the womb of Rohini, he will be known as Sankarshana and will be the source of all spiritual power, or bala, by which one can attain the highest bliss of life, which is called the Ramana. Therefore, the plenary portion, Ananta, will be known after his appearance either as Sankarshana or as Balaram." In the Upanishads, it is stated, Nayamatma balahinena labhya. The purport is that one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. No one can attain spiritual perfection by physical strength. One must have the spiritual strength which is infused by Balaram or Sankarshan. Ananta or Shesha is the source of the power which sustains all the planets in their different positions. Materially, this sustaining power is known as the law of gravitation, but actually it is a display of the potency of Sankarshan. Balaram or Sankarshan is the source of spiritual power or the original spiritual master. Therefore, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is also the incarnation of Balaram, is the original spiritual master. And the spiritual master is the representative of Balaram, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who supplies spiritual strength. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is confirmed that the spiritual master is the manifestation of the mercy of Krishna. Thus, ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yogamaya circumambulated the Lord and then appeared within the material world according to his order. When Yogamaya, the supreme power of the supremely powerful Personality of Godhead, transferred Lord Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini, both Devaki and Rohini were under Yogamaya's spell, which is called Yoga Nidra. When this was done, people thought that Devaki's 7th pregnancy had been a miscarriage. Thus, although Balaram appeared as the son of Devaki, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini to appear as her son. After this arrangement, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is always ready to protect his unalloyed devotees, entered within the mind of Vasudeva as the Lord of the whole creation with full inconceivable potencies. It is understood in this connection that Lord Krishna first of all situated himself in the unalloyed heart of Vasudeva and was then transferred to the heart of Devaki. He was not put into the womb of Devaki by seminal discharge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable potency, can appear in any way. It is not necessary for him to appear in the ordinary way by seminal injection within the womb of a woman. When Vasudeva was sustaining the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, he appeared just like the glowing sun, whose shining rays are always unbearable and scorching to the common man. The form of the Lord situated in the pure unalloyed heart of Vasudeva is not different from the original form of Krishna. The appearance of the form of Krishna anywhere, and specifically within the heart, is called Dham. Dham refers not only to Krishna's form, but also to his name, his qualities, and his paraphernalia. Everything becomes manifest simultaneously. Thus, the eternal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full potencies was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, exactly as the setting sun's rays are transferred to the full moon rising in the east. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus entered the body of Devaki from the body of Vasudeva without being subject to any of the conditions of an ordinary living entity. Since Krishna was there, it is to be understood that all his plenary expansions, such as Narayan, and incarnations like Lord Nrsimha and Varaha were there with him. And they were also not subject to the conditions of material existence. In this way, Devaki came to the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a, became the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a second, and the cause of all creation. Devaki became the residence of the Absolute Truth, but because she was confined within the house of Kamsa, she looked just like a suppressed fire, or like misused education. When fire is kept in a jug, the illuminating rays of the fire cannot be very much appreciated. Similarly, misused knowledge, which does not benefit the people in general, is not very much appreciated. So Devaki was kept within the prison walls of Kamsa's palace, and no one could see her transcendental beauty, which resulted from her conceiving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kamsa, however, saw the transcendental beauty of his sister Devaki, and he at once concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had taken shelter in her womb. She had never before looked so wonderfully beautiful. He could distinctly understand that there was something wonderful within the womb of Devaki. In this way, Kamsa became perturbed because he was sure that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who would kill him in the future, and had now come. Kamsa began to think, what is to be done with Devaki? Surely she has Vishnu or Krishna within her womb, so it is certain that Krishna has come to execute the mission of the demigods. And even if I immediately kill Devaki, his mission cannot be frustrated. Kamsa knew very well that no one can frustrate the purpose of Vishnu. Any intelligent man can understand that the laws of God cannot be violated. His purpose will be served in spite of all impediments offered by the demons. Kamsa thought, if I kill Devaki at the present moment, Vishnu will enforce his supreme will more vehemently. To kill Devaki just now would be a most abominable act. No one desires to kill his reputation, even in an awkward situation. If I kill Devaki now, my reputation will be spoiled. Devaki is a woman, and she is under my shelter. She is pregnant, and if I kill her, immediately my reputation, the results of my pious activities, and my duration of life will all be finished. He further deliberated. A person who is too cruel is as good as dead, even in this lifetime. No one likes a cruel person during his lifetime, and after his death, people curse him. On account of his self-identification with the body, he must be degraded and pushed into the darkest region of hell. Kamsa thus meditated on all the pros and cons of killing Devaki at that time. Kamsa finally decided not to kill Devaki right away, but to wait for the inevitable future. But his mind became absorbed in animosity against the personality of Godhead. He patiently waited for the delivery of the child, expecting to kill him as he had done previously with the other babies of Devaki. Thus, being merged in the ocean of animosity against the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he began to think of Krishna while sitting, while sleeping, while walking, while eating, while working, in all situations of his life. His mind became so much absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that indirectly he could see only Krishna or Vishnu around him. Unfortunately, although his mind was so absorbed in the thought of Vishnu, he is not recognized as a devotee because he was thinking of Krishna as an enemy. The state of mind of a great devotee is also to be always absorbed in Krishna, but a devotee thinks of him favorably, not unfavorably. To think of Krishna favorably is Krishna consciousness, but to think of Krishna unfavorably is not Krishna consciousness. At this time, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada and followed by many other demigods, invisibly appeared in the house of Kamsa. They began to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in select verses, which are very pleasing to the devotees and which award fulfillment of their desires. The first words they spoke acclaimed that the Lord is true to his vow. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna descends to this material world just to protect the pious and destroy the impious. That is his vow. The demigods could understand that the Lord had taken his residence within the womb of Devaki to fulfill his vow, and they were very glad that the Lord was appearing in order to fulfill his mission. Then the demigods addressed the Lord as Satyam Param, or the Supreme Absolute Truth. Everyone is searching after the truth. That is the philosophical way of life. The demigods give information that the Supreme Absolute Truth is Krishna. One who becomes fully Krishna conscious can attain the Absolute Truth. Krishna is the Absolute Truth because, unlike relative truth, he is truth in all the three phases of eternal time. Time is divided into past, present, and future. Krishna is truth always, past, present, and future. In the material world, everything is being controlled by supreme time in the course of past, present, and future. But before the creation, Krishna was existing, and when there is creation, everything is resting in Krishna. And when this creation is finished, Krishna will remain. Therefore, he is the absolute truth in all circumstances. If there is any truth within this material world, it emanates from the supreme truth, Krishna. If there is any opulence within this material world, the cause of the opulence is Krishna. If there is any reputation within this material world, the cause of the reputation is Krishna. If there's any strength within this material world, the cause of such strength is. If there is any wisdom and education within this material world, the cause of such wisdom and education is. Therefore, is the source of all relative truths. This material world is composed of 5 principal elements. What are they, Avantika? The 5 principal elements. Very good. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And all such elements are emanations from Krishna. The material scientists accept these 5 primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation. But the elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna. The living entities who are working within this material world are products of his marginal potency. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the whole manifestation is a combination of 2 kinds of energies of Krishna, the superior energy and the inferior energy. The living entities are the superior energy, and the dead material elements are his inferior energy. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. The demigods continued to offer their respective prayers under the supreme form of the personality of Godhead Krishna by analytical study of the material manifestation. What is this material manifestation? It is just like a tree. A tree stands on the ground. Similarly, the tree of the material manifestation is standing on the ground of material nature. This material manifestation is compared to a tree because a tree is ultimately cut off in due course of time. A tree is called vriksha. Vriksha means that thing which will be ultimately cut off. Therefore, this tree of the material manifestation cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth because it is influenced by time. But Krishna's body is eternal. He existed before the material manifestation. He is existing while the material manifestation is continuing and when it will be dissolved. He will continue to exist. Therefore, only Krishna can be accepted as the absolute truth. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just thought it worthwhile to insert Hari Bol Vana. Nice to see you. Insert a comment at this point. because in a special presentation, Carl Sagan advocated that the material cosmos can be accepted as the supreme truth. Why not? He said, if you say that there is a point at which you cannot go any further back, and you say, well, God is the source of everything, so he's the origin, why not just say, since we can't see God, that material nature is the source of everything? After all, you're stopping at a certain point and you're saying something is the origin. And Prabhupada points out why there's a fallacy in his reasoning here. And it is because he points out, as I'll repeat, that the material nature is called vriksha. It's compared to vriksha, or tree, and a vriksha means that which will be cut off. The material nature is constantly changing and can be destroyed. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. Krishna mentions this in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how the material nature is endlessly mutable and being destroyed and changing. Whereas the body of the personality of Godhead is eternal and completely perfect. So to accept that there is a source of everything that is constantly changing and is subject to enervation is not as sound a philosophy as accepting the transcendental body of God, whose senses are perfect, whose body is eternal and full of all potencies, not subject to any of the change elements of the material world, is a better philosophy. It makes more sense. Continuing, the Katha Upanishad also cites this example of the tree of the material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has two kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like two birds. One bird is a localized aspect of Krishna known as the Paramatma, and the other bird is a living entity. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruit of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. The Katha Upanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. The roots of this tree extend in three directions. This means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just as the tree's root expands, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. The tastes of the fruits are four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. According to the different associations in the three modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance. But because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through the five senses. The five sense organs through which knowledge is acquired or are subjected to six kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, and thirst. This material body, or the material manifestation, is covered by 7 layers: skin, muscle, blood, marrow, bone, fat, and semen. The branches of the tree are 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. There are 9 gates in this body: the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital, 1 rectum. And there are 10 kinds of internal air passing within the body: prana, apana, udana, vyana, samana, etc. The 2 birds seated in this tree are explained above. The 2 birds seated in this tree, as explained above, are the living entity and the localized Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma. The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the three qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains this manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution, and when the whole manifestation is dissolved, in its subtle form as his energy, it rests within his body. At present, the demigods prayed, the Supreme Lord Krishna is appearing just for the maintenance of this manifestation. Actually, the Supreme Cause is one, but less intelligent persons, being deluded by the three modes of material nature, see that the material world is manifested through different causes. Those who are intelligent can see that the cause is one, Krishna. As is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the root, is the cause of all causes. Brahma is the deputed agent for creation. Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna for maintenance. And Lord Shiva is the expansion of Krishna for dissolution. Our dear Lord, the demigods prayed, it is very difficult to understand your eternal form or personality. How's everyone doing so far? Are you enjoying hearing this? Okay. People in general are unable to understand your actual form. Therefore, you are personally descending to exhibit your original eternal form. Sometimes people can understand the different incarnations of your lordship, but they are puzzled to understand the eternal form of Krishna with two hands, moving among human beings exactly like one of them. This eternal form of your lordship gives ever-increasing transcendental pleasure to the devotees, but for the non-devotees, this form is very dangerous. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very pleasing to the sadhus. Paritranaya sadhunam. But this form is very dangerous for the demons because Krishna also descends to kill the demons. He is therefore simultaneously pleasing to the devotees and dangerous to the demons. Our dear lotus-eyed Lord, you are the source of pure goodness. There are many great sages who simply by samadhi or transcendentally meditating upon your lotus feet and, who simply by samadhi or transcendentally meditating on your lotus feet and thus being absorbed in your thought, have easily transformed the great ocean of nescience created by the material nature into no more than the water in a calf's hoofprint. The purpose of meditation is to focus the mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, beginning from his lotus feet. Simply by meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages cross over this vast ocean of material existence without difficulty. O self-illuminated one, the great saintly persons who have crossed over the ocean of nescience by the help of the transcendental boat of your lotus feet have not taken away that boat. It is still lying on this side. If one takes a boat to cross over a river, the boat also goes with one to the other side of the river. And so when one reaches the destination, how can the same boat be available to those who are still on this side? To answer this difficulty, the demigods say in their prayer that the boat of the Lord's lotus feet is not taken away. The devotees still remaining on this side are able to pass over the ocean of material nature because the pure devotees do not take the boat with them when they cross over. When one simply approaches the boat, the whole ocean of material nescience is reduced to the size of the water in a calf's hoofprint. Therefore, the devotees do not need to take the boat to the other side. They simply cross the ocean immediately. Because the great saintly persons are compassionate towards all conditioned souls, the boat is still lying on this side. In other words, one can meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord at any time, and by so doing, one can cross over the great ocean of material existence. Meditation means concentration upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Lotus feet indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but those who are impersonalists do not recognize the lotus feet of the Lord. and therefore their object of meditation is something impersonal. The demigods express their mature verdict that persons who are interested in meditating on something void or impersonal cannot cross over the ocean of nescience. Such persons are simply imagining that they have become liberated. O lotus-eyed Lord, their intelligence is contaminated because they fail to meditate upon the lotus feet of your lordship. As a result of this neglectful activity, the impersonalists fall down again into the material way of conditioned life, although they may temporarily rise to the point of impersonal realization. Impersonalists undergo severe austerities and penances to merge themselves into the Brahman effulgence, or impersonal Brahman existence, but their minds are not free from material contamination. They have simply tried to negate the material ways of thinking. Welcome back, Shiv Kumar. Hare Krishna. That does not mean that they have become liberated. Thus, they fall down. That, of course, is from the famous verse, Yene ravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avashuddha buddhaya arya krishnena parampadam tata patantyato nadrita yushmarangrayaha. An often quoted verse Prabhupada gave. And this verse says that there are many imagined goals of perfection. And Prabhupada elaborates on that in the purport. He said maybe mundane goals, for instance, attaining a high political post, or merging into the Lord's existence, and so forth. But if they don't include reestablishing one's relationship with the personality of Godhead, that one will fall down from that position ultimately, because one will lack the satisfaction of being engaged in the Lord's eternal service. You could put it right here. Otherwise, thank you. And aruya krishnena means it's a lot of hard work. Parampadam tata, but they'll fall down again even after attaining so much hard work. Patantyada, yushmarangrayaha. But yene ravindaksha vimuktamaninas, the personality of Godhead. So in the end of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the perfection of all knowledge, of all wisdom, if one engages in Purushottam Yoga and knows the personality of Godhead as the origin of everything and the object of meditation, then one becomes wise and his endeavors know perfection. Tamidam nityam. What is the verse? The last verse of 15th chapter. Yetu dharmam. Here. So, yeah, the Vedas, beginning Rig Veda, explains how everything in this universe comes from the Supreme Person. Purusha Sukta from the Rig Veda. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksa Sahasrapad Sabhuming Vishwatovritvat Atyatishtat Dashangulam. This is an interesting series of verses, the Purusha Sukta, ancient mantras. Sahasra Shirsha, he has thousands of heads. Purushaha, he's a person, unlimited heads. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha, he has thousands of eyes. Sahasraksha Sahasrasaha. Sabhuming Vishuto Vritvat Atyatishtat Dashangulam. He's a source of this world, and also Dashangulam, Dasha Angula, means that he is 10 fingers above the material creation. This language is that no matter what you can imagine in this material world, whatever is created here by the Supreme Person, and whatever you can conceive of, he's beyond that by 10 fingers. Dasha Angulam. Purusha evedam gung sarvam yat bhutam yachcha bhavyam itam ratat veshishanaha yaranannati rohati. And then it goes, into further explanation. Purusha evedam gung sarvam yat bhutam yachdabhavyam. How he's the Purusha is the source of everything, the entire creation. Eta vanasya mahimato jayamshcha Purusha. And then there's an elaborate description of how from in the beginning of creation, the Purusha manifested the Devas, and then the Devas used the Purusha, the body of the Purusha, because there was nothing else, as the elements for performing a fire sacrifice. And that the Purusha himself became the elements for the fire yajna. And from that yajna, from that sacrifice, in which the Purusha was the object of sacrifice, and the sacrificial fire then manifested everything in the universe. Gavoho jagnide tasmad yash, the cows, all the animals with 2 rows of teeth, and all other species of life came from that, and also the different mantras. The Rig, Sama, Yajura, Tarva Vedas all manifested from the Purusha. So it goes on to explain how the Purusha is the source of everything. From such mantras, which are also explained by Shukadeva Goswami in the second chapter of the second canto of the Bhagavatam, in Purusha Sukta Explained, which actually is a book that Prabhupada separately printed out of the Bhagavatam by ISKCON Press, and it was distributed to in mass to the public, in which there's an explanation of the Purusha Sukta, and that is how the creation starts, how everything comes from the Supreme Person. The end result of this explanation by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj is that one begins to appreciate the creation in a different way, seeing how everything's connected to the Supreme Person. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme, and how he's the source of everything. Everything emanated from his body. And how it did is explained in this Purusha Sukta mantra. And that therefore one begins to develop gratitude and appreciation of the design and everything in the material world. And gradually this leads to a kind of devotion, a dedication to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, that when one knows that I'm the origin of everything, then he becomes devoted. He gives everything to me. What else is there to do? And so this verse from the prayers by the demigods praying to Lord Krishna in the womb is extremely helpful because it gives us the goal, the prayojan. The ultimate goal is to develop this consciousness of the Supreme Person, the Purusha, who's behind everything, of whom we are a part and parcel. Which is phenomenal. It's actually beyond comprehension. It's achintya, that there's a way in which he's one person. The one person is the origin and source of everything and is everything. And at the same time, there are diversities within that one person, of which we are a part. And we are conscious of our individual identity, and at the same time conscious that we are part of the whole. Achinta Beda Bed Tattva. And we're all part of the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes?
Prabhuji, what you read in the last about impersonalism, I was just wondering, like, this is the part of the prayer demigod said that, then how could this impersonalism is so, still exist, because it is clearly stated they will fall down even if they go up. I'm just wondering, like, is it just the nature? Because
how can it still exist?
Right.
If there's perfect knowledge, how can there be imperfect knowledge? Well, Prabhupada says that all experiences of incompleteness are due to incomplete knowledge of the complete. And that's because of ignorance. And ignorance, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, is the nemesis of the conditioned soul. When one comes out of ignorance and gets full knowledge and directs one's attention toward Krishna, one's relationship is revived. Other than that, there's all forms of incompleteness in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're always in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead to varying degrees, but some of them are more covered than others. So how can it exist? Because when there's light, there's the possibility for darkness, because the living entity is not a dead stone, and therefore can turn his attention in any direction. And perfection, a complete whole, means there must be not only light, but also darkness. Otherwise, how is it complete? There's yin and yang. There's the complete set of positives and negatives within everything that exists. And there's the possibility of some living entities choosing to be in darkness and being subjected to the darkness. It's born of ignorance. Yes, Vittal.
Prabhu, I had a question on that Carl Sagan statement which you refuted, which you said Srila Prabhupada refuted, saying that why the philosophy that something which is changeable cannot be the source. That was the argument, right? But if these atheists stubbornly ask, like, why that, what is wrong with that? How exactly would we counter that? Or can you elaborate, like, what is wrong with that philosophy again?
The source must be superior to the manifestations, the emanations, and we can identify the material energy as an inferior energy compared to the transcendental body of the Lord and the spiritual energy, which does not degrade over time. And therefore, by logic, one is superior, one is inferior. So if one is the source, it must be the superior.
Sorry, but that is because we acknowledge, we actually have that firm faith that there is a Lord in the first place. But for these atheists, there is no question.
It's okay, Lord or no Lord. The point is that something has to be the origin. And Carl Sagan was saying that if you're going to accept God, you might as well accept material nature, because there has to be, otherwise you get infinite regress if you keep saying there's something before. Ultimately, there has to be a source of everything, so why not material nature? And the answer Prabhupada was giving here, the reason is because material nature is inferior quality to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's not a matter of, it's a faith in either one. Ultimately, you end in it. You have to take refuge somewhere and say something is the source, an inexplicable source, that there's no origin behind that. So naturally, the descriptions of the personality of Godhead, the demigods are saying, are defeating this idea that the material nature is the all in all, because the Lord is coming personally to show that He is superior to that energy. He's the dominant. He's the source of it, and He dominates that material energy. And His body is superior in quality.
One more?
Yeah.
There was this point about why Kamsa is not a devotee, because he was, even though he was thinking of the Lord, he was doing it unfavorably. And I think maybe it's in Bhagavatam only, there is this other instance of the thief who wants to rob Krishna of his jewels when he hears the story of Bhagavatam, and he is meditating on that, and he actually sees Krishna. Or there is also the pastime of Putana, who, though she wants to kill Krishna, Krishna awards him the place of the mother. I do acknowledge that Krishna is not bound by any rules, that he has to do like this, but am I missing something? Like, it seems to be different treatment here.
The devotees, like Uddhava, appreciate the demons, so does Narada. And they say in their ecstasy that the demons are more advanced than me. because they think of you more intensely than I do, out of fear and out of hatred. They think of you more. But objectively, the devotee's quality of thinking of the Lord is superior because it's out of love and not out of hate or fear. It is true, yam krodha kama sahaja pranayati piti vatsalya moha guru gaurava sevibhava sanchintya tasya sadrishim tanamapurete govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. And also in the 10th canto there are verses which describe how out of even feelings of hatred and aversion to Krishna, one becomes benefited. However, even in the ultimate issue, we see that the demons, although, yes, they gain benefit, oftentimes they attain liberation by entering into the body of the Lord, because they're starting from an inferior position in the way that they're thinking of Krishna. They don't attain the same destination as the devotees. The devotees attain the ultimate goal. Demons normally are described as attaining impersonal liberation, which is abhorred even by the devotees. Even Putana is described as, although she attained the perfection as one of Krishna's mothers, it wasn't on the same level as a complete mother of Krishna. It's something like that. So there's a difference when one's thinking favorably of Krishna and when one is meditating on him in an inimical way, out of fear and so forth. A little more? It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that to realize Brahman identification is not all. Brahman identification may help one become joyful without material attachment or detachment and to achieve the platform of equanimity. But after this stage, one has to take to devotional service. When one takes to devotional service after being elevated to the platform of Brahman realization, he is then admitted into the spiritual kingdom for permanent residence in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the result of devotional service. Those who are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead never fall down like the impersonalists. Even if the devotees fall down, they remain affectionately attached to their Lord. They can meet all kinds of obstacles on the path of devotional service, and freely, without any fear, they can surmount such obstacles. Because of their surrender, they are certain that Krishna will always protect them. As it is promised by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, my devotees are never vanquished. Our dear Lord, the demigods continued, you have appeared in your original unalloyed form, the eternal form of goodness, for the welfare of all living entities within this material world. Taking advantage of your appearance, all of them can now very easily understand the nature and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons who belong to the 4 divisions of the social order, the brahmacharis, grihastha, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, can all take advantage of your appearance. Dear Lord, husband of the goddess of fortune, devotees who are dovetailed in your service do not fall down from their high position like the impersonalists. Being protected by you, the devotees are able to traverse over the heads of many of Maya's commanders-in-chief who can always put stumbling blocks on the path of liberation. Dear Lord, you appear in your eternal transcendental form for the benefit of the living entities, so that they can see you face to face and offer their worshipable sacrifices by ritualistic performances of the Vedas, mystic meditation, and devotional service as recommended in the scriptures. Dear Lord, if you did not appear in your eternal transcendental form, full of bliss and knowledge, a form which can eradicate all kinds of speculative ignorance about your position, then all people would simply speculate about you according to their respective modes of material nature. May I have a Brahma Samhita? Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayamana Asuya Praninam Pratipalam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena bhuvananya jatyajastram govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. In the Sri Brahma Samhita, this verse, Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratipalam Smarutam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Yajastram Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami explains how this direct appearance of the Lord gives the living entities a way in which to conquer over the material nature. Thank you very much. It's text 42. Lilayitena bhuvanani jayat yajastram. It says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of recollecting souls as the transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Purport, those who constantly recollect in accordance with spiritual instructions the name, figure, attributes, and pastimes of the form of Krishna, appearing in the amorous rasa, whose loveliness vanquishes the god of mundane love, conqueror of all mundane hearts, are alone meditators of Krishna. Krishna, who is full of pastimes, always manifests himself with his realm only in the pure receptive cognition of such persons. The pastimes of that manifested divine realm triumphantly dominates in every way all the majesty and beauty of the mundane world. So, the parallel to this point, that Krishna is coming in his personal form. And by that, we are given an opportunity to, and it's the only opportunity, to conquer over our attraction to the grandeur of the material world. Otherwise, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya prahita chetasam vyavasaya mika buddhi samadao navadiyate. When one is attracted to the bhoga of this material world and the aishvarya, the opulence of the material world, what appears in the variety of this material world for my enjoyment, I become attracted to. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya prahita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhir samadao navadiyate. One's ability for meditation on the absolute becomes nullified and bifurcated because of one's attraction to the material world. So the remedy is being given here in this chapter, that Krishna appears in his form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasuya Praninam Pratipalam Smarutam Upetya. Those who can recollect the pastimes of Krishna by hearing about them, then develop attraction for the superior form of Krishna. And that's how they conquer over the material nature. Otherwise, it's impossible. This is also mentioned by the four Kumaras, I believe, when they say, please look up the verse, Rikta Matayo Pirudha Shoto Ganas Tamabaran Bhajavasudevam. How does that verse start? And what they say is that if one is Rikta Matayo, that the impersonalists and those who do not take the path of devotional service, remembering Krishna, Rikta Matayo, they've lost their minds. Or they have no minds. And therefore, they get washed away by the Bhogaishvarya of the material world. They get attracted to it. It comes as a wave, and it blows them away. At some point, they may control their senses by their own power, by drilling the respiration, by practicing intense disciplines and so forth. But at a certain point, the big wave comes, like those sleeper waves. They have these sleeper waves that come on the coast of California. There are signs in Mendocino, for instance, a little town up the coast that I frequent. that say, beware of sleeper waves, because people go out onto the headlands when the tide seems to be going out, and you can go further out, and you see the beautiful tide pools and so forth. Even if you don't go that far out, even if you're standing on the headlands, the sleeper waves come infrequently, but people charmed by the opulence of the ocean and the headlands and so forth, and thinking life is great, and then the wave comes and it just sweeps them off the edge of the rocks and into the ocean, and they're finished. So like that, Shroto Ganas Tamaranam Bhajavasudevam. What is it? Couldn't find it. This is a disaster. Shroto Ganas Tamaranam Bhajavasudevam. How does it start? Yat pada pallava palasha vilasha bhaktya karmashrayam gratitam udgratayanti santa shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. Oh, tadvanna rikta matayo yatayo pirudha shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. So this verse, it says that, what is the number? Thank you, Srivas Prabhu, from Swarga. 4:22:39. 4:22:39. Where is it? 4:22? Oh, 4. Thank you, that helps. 2:17. Here it is. Yat pada pankacha palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashrayam gratitam udgratayanti santa tadvanda rikta matayo yatayo pirudha shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities, because this is very difficult. The non-devotees, jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. So this is the power of devotional service. Even a simple person who's not a yogi, or who may be even mixed up with the material world because of obligations and so forth, who is regularly meditating on the toes of the lotus feet of Krishna and serving him through the parampara system, can develop a taste that will allow that person to forego the variety of the material world. And the only way to do that is to have a higher taste. The only way to do it is to have a higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishva navartate. Got to get to higher ground. And this higher ground comes from the meditation on the pastimes of the personality of Godhead, his name, his personality. And by keeping that meditation going, one develops a relationship with the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. And this attractive feature keeps one fixed and not washed away by the waves of material nature. So we're just hearing the importance of the appearance of the Lord in this world. We're biding our time working towards the appearance day of the Lord on Janmashtami by hearing about his pastimes constantly, hopefully, keeping the name of Krishna on our lips at every second, cooking for Krishna, making nice kitri, and all kinds of other preparations, offering them to Krishna. So sweet to offer things to Krishna. I was thinking that Krishna avails himself to this yajna. In the Purusha Sukta mantras is mentioned how the devas, they use the body of the Lord to offer back sacrifice. And I was thinking this morning, when I was chanting my japa, how merciful that is There's nothing else. So Krishna says, well, just use my body. Whatever produce. It's like offering water to the Ganges back to the Ganges. And then I was thinking of the verse, Patram pushpam palam toyam, yo me bhaktya prayachati. These things come from the universal body of the Lord. He says, just get some grass, or, these things are offered in the sacrifice, simple things. Kusha is grass. Yam barishi proksham ajayataha. It says, it describes this process. They were sprinkling water on the body of the Purusha with the kusha grass. Proksham barishi. And in this way offering. And then in the Gita, Krishna comes out and says, take from my universal body, patram. You can get a leaf. Can you find a leaf on my body somewhere? And this is from the universal body of the Lord. Get a leaf. And if you offer that in sacrifice, you'll attain perfection. Because what is the perfection? Yene ravindaksha vimuktamaninas. It's this yat para pankaja palasha vilasa bhakta. Vilasa bhakta means there's a superior enjoyment that one gets when one offers the Krishna will respond to that, and that's the sweetness that enters within one's heart that you offer and sacrifice to the Purusha, the Supreme Purusha. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, if you can elaborate on this point more, I've always wondered, every now and then in Srimad Bhagavatam, the narration stops and there is pages after pages of prayers and so many sections on prayers. Why does that kind of a mode chosen? Why is prayers out of 9 devotional processes?
Didn't you ever watch a musical? In India, they have musicals a lot. America, they have music like Sound of Music. I used to wonder the same thing as a kid. Why ruin the movie with all these songs? They take me through the movie. It's like, why are they singing again? I want to see the movie. But later on, with a refined taste, I could appreciate, the song fits in with the whole mood of the whole thing. And then it becomes sweet. And actually, ultimately, what else is there to do when one comes to the conclusion that there's a relationship with the Supreme? Then what else can one do but pray? It's a natural outpouring that comes. I mean, once the philosophy is realized, then what do? You pour out your heart and you glorify the Lord. So it's a natural progression that occurs, in the process of, yeah.
A couple of things, Maharaj. I was also thinking that Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken just before Kali Yuga, and it's so difficult for us to pray on our own here. So here there are some standard prayers that we can use and refer to.
Yeah, definitely.
And just one small point, it was Mukharvinda who was spouting that verse.
Oh, that was Mukharvinda. Thank you, Mukharvind. Thank you very much.
I was also thinking about when you were talking about the mercy of Lord Krishna, like here, take a leaf from my body. And to it, earlier when you were reading, Prabhupada said that just by approaching the lotus feet of the Lord, the material ocean shrinks to such a small size. So that's His mercy as well. Like, just approach and He's willing to do
just
it.
by approaching. And going back to this idea of, bhakti is so sweet. Worshipping the deity is sweet. You have to worship a deity. This is a point of our acharyas. You have to worship the deity. Chanting is the process for the age. But Jiva Goswami says, because one can't chant without offenses in this age, one also has to simultaneously worship the deity. We run on 2 tracks, Pantrat Trikividi and the Bhagavat Marg. So Jiva's saying nobody's qualified just to sit and read Bhagavatam all day. And thankfully there's this deity worship. All over India you go, obviously. And like South India, you can go and there's these festivals where they'll take the deity out on the elephant, Guruvayur, or some places they'll put the deity on the boat and people will come out and the bands will be playing and the deity's going around on the little boat. They did this in New Dwarka last year for the Prabhupada festival. The last 2 years in a row, they put a giant pond right in the front yard. They put millions of flower petals in, and they took the deity around in the boat, and it's mesmerizing. To stand there, I mean, with the sun just going down and the deities are going around, being pushed around on a boat, there's something inherently satisfying about that, to see the sweet face of the Lord on the boat. Inconceivable, but this is yet pada pankacha palasa vilasa bhaktya. You have to get that vilas, that stimulates that feeling of how sweet the Lord is, indescribable, how nice it is. In the environment of the gathering all these articles for sacrifice for the Lord in deity worship, it's very nice. You grow a garden in your yard, and you can grow some ostamarians, and you can grow some, you can grow plumerias. I have plumeria that Raja gave me many years ago from Hawaii, and it's still growing. The last 8 years I have it in my greenhouse. Just plugged it in the ground. Every year brings out nice plumeria flowers. And then you can put gardenias. They'll grow unless you live over where Satyadev lives on the coast. Too cold there. But if you get some hot weather, you can put gardenias in, and you can put marigolds during this time of year. About 20 different kinds of flowers. And then you get some, in the morning for your deity, you get incense. You collect nice incense, and you can make these ghee wicks. It's like you offer the Lord some fire, all these different elements. They're all from the universal body, right? And the flowers are growing out by His mercy. He creates them, by His mercy. But you go out and collect them. That's your sacrifice. You get a little colander, or a big colander, depending how many flowers you have. You fill it up with tulsi buds, because tulsi, when she's healthy, she grows so many manjaris that it takes you, half an hour a day just to pick them all. So you get a big stack of manjaris, and then maybe 20 or 30 gardenias, if you've planned well, and then a big stack of the plumerias and marigolds, all different colors, and bring them in and wash them. Pushpe, pushpe, mahapushpe, supushpe, pushpe sambhave, pushpe swavam, kirne chaham bhat swaha. There's all these mantras to keep your mind engaged. And, for every move you make in the deity worship, if you have the time, you can add in all these different mantras for worshiping the seat you're going to sit on. Mother Earth is being propitiated. And then you offer a little puja to the seat, and then you sit down. And then each article that you set up in the deity worship for the sacrifice, you install each one. You install the Panchapatra. You draw a little star with water on the platform, and then you can put it down. Then you offer a flower with some chandan. Then you fill it with water. And then the conch shell, you do a puja to the sun and the moon in the conch shell, and the conch shell stand. And so forth. And all these things are very sweet, actually. And then finally, the Lord makes His appearance. You set everything up. You go collect all the ingredients. And all the time, it's being brought to the sacrifice. Just like at the beginning of the universe, when the Devas were making this sacrifice, which elevated them to the highest position. So anybody can do this. Krishna appears in His archa form. So it's necessary to have this connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you notice devotees who become attached to worshiping the deity, they'll, sacrifice their sleep. They'll be very concerned with being regulated and clean because they want to be there for the deity. And they develop this really sweet relationship. One devotee who passed away a few years ago, she used to, in New York, she worshiped the deity. She would always, before she would dress the deity, she would warm up his clothes. I think she used the iron or something like that. She'd get the clothes nice and warm. And then she'd dress the deity, but make sure the clothes were warm, because they'd take them out of the... So she's thinking, and when she was leaving the world, she was remembering these pastimes with the deities about, warming his clothes and all these kinds of things. This is vilasa bhaktya. So the bhakti yogis, they enter into this. It's very sweet. You see South India, people come for festivals from miles around. In Kartik, in Vrindavan, families come from everywhere just to walk around Giriraj. And you see the families out there. They bring all their kids on vacation. Let's go, kids. We're going on vacation. What are we going to do? Dandavat Parikram. And the kids are like in ecstasy. It's like, and if you go to Disneyland, you see the kids there like, where's the mouse? I want to see the mouse. I want more candy. And they become agitated in mind. When they go to see the mouse, when you go on pilgrimage to see the mouse, you just get an agitated mind. But when you come to Giriraj and you do Dandavat Parikram, kids, anywhere from 5 years old up, they can do this Dandavat Parikram. They got this determined look on their face. They're happy. They're in ecstasy. And they're going around. So this sacrifice to the personality, the Purusha, then one actually gets bilas. And so Krishna's so kind. He appears in his personal form just to show the toes of his feet. Just to show the toes of his feet. And that's the sub and substance of all knowledge, is to just feel that kind of spiritual giddiness. Like, I just saw Krishna's toes. And people come, they line up to see Venkateshwar. You can watch from the temple down in Tirupati, everyone going up to Tirumala, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. From the conference room at Tirupati temple, you can look out the window and watch the buses lined up. Their lights going up the hill, millions of people every month, just going up to get 5-second darshan. You get a 5-second darshan unless you're a super VIP or you're a freak. Like I'm a white elephant, so when I got in there, they see me and they wouldn't let me go past them. The last time I went up there, they were pushing everyone through. They have people that keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, don't stop. And I got up there and the guy grabs me and he turns around and he goes, "See God. See God." And I got, okay, I see him. And I was thinking, okay, I've seen him enough, I better go. And then he goes, "No, see God more." And I was thinking, where else can you see God? To actually have somebody to look at, to actually see the toes and and then everything that goes on around. You come back out and you see everyone counting up all the hundi money, and then there's the people cooking all the prasadam, and all this going on. It's all just for the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. This is the sum and substance of all knowledge. That's why Krishna appears in this world. Everything else, all other activities which are outside this orbit, are simply suffering. And any kind of endeavor which is made and the goal is achieved will be eventually vanquished if it doesn't include this vilas, or this pleasure in seeing the lotus toes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that the demigods, they know what's what. And they're giving these prayers to Krishna in the womb. They're saying, this is why you've come. This is why you're making your appearance in this world, because you're showing your mercy to all the people. And yes, now we have a text. Let's hear.
This is a text from Sudeep Sabnes Prabhu. And he says, "Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. Greatly enjoyed how you narrated the deity worship part. If it's so sweet just hearing about it, performing it in the manner you specified would be even sweeter. Thank you very much, your servant, Sudeep."
Thank you, Sudeep. Yeah, collecting the ingredients is a full-time operation. You have to keep a lot of things in play. So it expands into the realm of your regular life. Like you have to have ghee wicks. You have to have, everything has to be cleaned all the time. And when you clean something, and you polish it, then naturally, all of a sudden you feel happy. You clean the Lord's paraphernalia, you just polish it up so it's nice and clean, then suddenly you feel happy and satisfied in a very natural way. So Krishna's appearance in this world is meant to bring us to this point of vilasa bhaktya. And now we'll just hear a little bit more. Now, can I find where I was? The appearance of Krishna is the answer. The appearance of Krishna, thank you, Ramananda. The appearance of Krishna is the answer to all imaginative iconography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone imagines the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to his mode of material nature. In the Brahma Samhita it is said that the Lord is the oldest person. Therefore, a section of religionists imagine that God must be very old, and therefore they depict the form of the Lord like a very old man. But in the same Brahma Samhita, that is contradicted. Although he is the oldest of all living entities, he has his eternal form as a fresh youth. The exact words used in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam are Vijnanam Ajnana Vidha Paramarjanam Vijnanam. Vijnana means transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vijnanam is also experienced knowledge. Transcendental knowledge has to be accepted by the descending process of disciplic succession, as Brahma presents the knowledge of Krishna in the Brahma Samhita. The Brahma Samhita is Vijnana, as realized by Brahma's natural experience, and in that way he presented the form and pastimes of Krishna in the transcendental abode. This knowledge is Ajnana Vidha Paramarjanam, that which can smash all kinds of speculation and ignorance. People are imagining the form of the Lord. Sometimes he has no form and sometimes he has form, according to their different imaginations. But the presentation of Krishna in the Brahma Samhita is Vijnanam, scientific, experienced knowledge given by Lord Brahma and accepted by Lord Chaitanya. There is no doubt about it. Krishna's form, Krishna's flute, Krishna's color, everything is reality. Here it is said that this Vijnanam is always defeating all kinds of speculative knowledge. Quote, therefore, without your appearing as Krishna as you are, neither Ajnana Vidha Paramarjanam, destruction of the nescience of speculative knowledge, nor Vijnanam would be realized. In other words, your appearance will vanquish the ignorance of speculative knowledge and establish the real experienced knowledge of authorities like Lord Brahma. Men influenced by the three modes of material nature imagine their own God according to the modes of material nature. In this way, God is presented in various ways, but your appearance will establish what the real form of God is. The highest blunder committed by the impersonalists is to think that when the incarnation of God comes, he accepts the form of matter in the mode of goodness. Actually, the form of Krishna or Narayan is transcendental to any material idea. Even the greatest impersonalist Shankaracharya has admitted, Narayana paro vyaktat. The material creation is caused by the vyakta, impersonal manifestation of matter, or the non-phenomenal total reservoir of matter. But Krishna is transcendental to that material conception. That is expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam as Shuddha Sattva, or transcendental goodness. He does not belong to the material mode of goodness. He is above the position of material goodness. He belongs to the transcendental eternal status of bliss and knowledge. Dear Lord, when you appear in your different incarnations, you take different names and forms according to different situations. Lord Krishna is your name because you are all attractive. You are called Shama Sundar because of your transcendental beauty. Shama means blackish. Yet it is said that you are more beautiful than thousands of cupids. Kandarpakoti Kamaniya. Although you appear in a color which is compared to the blackish cloud, because you are the transcendental absolute, your beauty is many, many times more attractive than the delicate body of Cupid. Sometimes you are called Giridhari because you lifted the hill known as Govardhan. You are sometimes called Nandanandana or Vasudeva or Devaki Nandan because you appear as the son of Maharaj Nanda or Vasudeva or Devaki. Impersonalists think that your many names or forms are given according to a particular type of work and quality because they accept you from the position of a material observer. Our dear Lord, the way of understanding is not to study your absolute nature, form and activities by mental speculation. One must engage himself in devotional service. Then one can understand your absolute nature and your transcendental form, name, and qualities. Actually, only a person who has a little taste for the service of your lotus feet can understand your transcendental nature or form and qualities. Others may go on speculating for millions of years, but it is not possible for them to understand even a single part of your actual position. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna cannot be understood by the non-devotees because there is a curtain of Yoga Maya which covers Krishna's actual features. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. The Lord says, I am not exposed to anyone and everyone. When Krishna came, he was actually present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and everyone saw him. But not everyone could understand that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, everyone who died in his presence attained complete liberation from material bondage and was transferred to the spiritual world. O Lord, the impersonalists or non-devotees cannot understand that your name is identical with your form. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his name and his actual form. In the material world, there is a difference between form and name. The mango fruit is different from the name of the mango. One cannot taste the mango fruit simply by chanting mango, mango, mango. But the devotee who knows that there is no difference between the name and the form of the Lord chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and realizes that he is always in Krishna's company. For persons who are not very advanced in absolute knowledge of the Supreme, Lord Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastimes. Such persons can simply think of the pastimes of the Lord and get full benefit. Such persons can simply think of the pastimes of the Lord and get full benefit. Can someone bring me 10th canto, the story of Aghasura? Such persons can simply think of the pastimes of the Lord and get full benefit. You all want full benefit? Okay, there it is. Since there is no difference between the transcendental name and form of the Lord, there is no difference between the transcendental pastimes and the form of the Lord. For those who are less intelligent, like women laborers or the mercantile class, the great sage Vyasadeva wrote the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, Krishna is present in his different activities. The Mahabharata is history, and simply by studying, hearing, and memorizing the transcendental activities of Krishna, the less intelligent can also gradually rise to the standard of pure devotees. The pure devotees who are always absorbed in the thought of the transcendental lotus feet of Krishna and who are always engaged in devotional service and full Krishna consciousness are never to be considered to be in the material world. Srila Rupa Goswami has explained that those who are always engaged in Krishna consciousness with body, mind, and activities are to be considered liberated even within this material body. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila apyavastastu jivan muktasu uchite. Liberated even in the body if one is engaging all of one's senses in yajna. You have to know what the object of yajna is, the Purusha. The Purusha takes the yajna. And once you have the object of yajna, and then you direct all the dravya, all the material things you have around you in service of the Purusha, then brahmarpanam brahmahavira brahmagnau brahmanohutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahmakarma samadhina. It all becomes Brahman, transcendentalized. So the whole house becomes, and if you live in a big fancy palace, but there's no yajna, then it's hell. And if you live in a little cave, but you have a little deity and you can offer him a little, whatever you can get, you'll feel this sweetness, vilasa bhaktya in your heart. And you'll be in Vaikuntha. Dashangulam, the Lord is 10 fingers above the material world. Purusha, Sahasra Shirsha Purusaha Sahasraksa Sahasrapat Sabuming Vishwato Vritvat Attitishat Dashangulam. 10 fingers above the material creation. Dasha Angulam. 10 fingers above the material world. So if you focus on the one who's 10 fingers above the material nature, and you dedicate your activities and whatever things you get. I saw one thing, it was at Lokan Vidarbha's house in DC. And after the Sankirtan day, they bring they have these beautiful deities of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in their living room. Beautiful marble deities on these nice vyasasanas. So after the Sankirtan Yajna, they collect all the cash and they put it on the vyasasana. And I just see everything comes, you offer everything to Krishna through the representative of Krishna, and you offer, and then everything becomes sweet, vilasa bhaktya, and everything becomes transformed by the mercy of the Lord, who's 10 fingers above the material nature. What to speak of chanting his name, then you've really got something, because the name is so special. The name is the personal, very sweet, intimate manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. He's personally present in the most intimate way in his name. They say Hare Krishna. So those who are chanting constantly are performing the best kind of yajna also. Okay. Krishna appears in order to give a chance to both the devotees and the non-devotees for realization of the ultimate goal of life. The devotees get the direct chance to see him and worship him. Those who are not on that platform get the chance to become acquainted with his activities and thus become elevated to the supreme position. Our dear Lord, O Supreme Controller, when you appear on earth, all the demons like Kamsa and Jarasandha will be vanquished, and all good fortune will be ushered into the world. When you walk on the globe, your lotus feet will impress on the ground the marks of your souls, such as the flag, the trident, and the thunderbolt. Thus you will grace both the earth and us on the heavenly planets, who shall see those marks. O dear Lord, the demigods continued, you are unborn, therefore we do not find any reason for your appearance other than for your pleasurable pastimes. Although the reason for the appearance of the Lord is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he descends just to give protection to the devotees and vanquish the non-devotees. Actually, he descends for his pleasure meeting with the devotees, not really to vanquish the non-devotees. The non-devotees can be vanquished simply by one kick of material nature. The activities and reactions of material nature, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, are being carried out automatically, but simply by taking shelter of your holy name, the devotees are fully protected because your holy name and your personality are non-different. The protection of the devotees and the annihilation of the non-devotees are actually not the business of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he descends, it is just for his transcendental pleasure. There cannot be any other reason for his appearance. Our dear Lord, you are appearing as the best, so this is the purpose of creation for the enjoyment of the Purusha. And he creates variety, Eko Bahusham, he becomes many and has the variety of other living entities simply for his enjoyment. And this is the sum and substance of wisdom and perfection in life, to understand this fact that everything is to be offered to the Purusha as for his enjoyment, because that's the purpose of creation, and that makes everything work perfectly. And when the part and parcel living entities offer in a spirit of self-sacrifice and love, they offer themselves and everything else to the Purusha, then they enjoy like anything. Then they're right in the festival and enjoying being connected to the supreme whole. Our dear Lord, you are appearing as the best of the Yadu dynasty, and we are offering our respectful, humble obeisances unto your lotus feet. Before this appearance, you also appeared as the fish incarnation, as the horse incarnation, as the tortoise incarnation, as the half-man, half-lion incarnation, as the boar incarnation, as the swan incarnation, as King Ramachandra, as Parusharam, and as many other incarnations. You appeared just to protect the devotees. And we request you, in your present appearance as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, to give us similar protection all over the three worlds and remove all obstacles for the peaceful execution of our lives. Dear Mother Devaki, within your womb is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing along with all His plenary extensions. He is the original personality of Godhead appearing for our welfare. Therefore, you should not be afraid of your brother, the king of Bhoja. Your son, Lord Krishna, who is the original personality of Godhead, will appear for the protection of the pious Yadu dynasty. The Lord appearing not alone, but accompanied by his immediate plenary portion, Baladev. Devaki was very much afraid of her brother, Kamsa, because he had already killed so many of her children. She was very anxious about Krishna. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that in order to pacify Devaki, all the demigods, along with their wives, used to visit her to encourage her not to be afraid that her son would be killed by Kamsa. Krishna, who was within her womb, was to appear not only to diminish the burden of the world, but specifically to protect the interests of the Yadu dynasty. And certainly to protect Devaki and Vasudeva. It is understood that Krishna has been transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, and from there to her womb. Thus all the demigods worshipped Devaki, the mother of Krishna. After thus worshipping the transcendental form of the Lord, all the demigods, with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva placed in front, departed for their heavenly abodes. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second chapter of Krishna, prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna within the womb. Congratulations, everybody. That was a satisfying yajna, wasn't it? Only one complaint, not enough time. Don't you think? It just goes by too quickly. We got about 6 minutes. Any reflections? Anything that's stuck in your mind? Yes.
How it is said here that the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma in the front, but it's so bewildering to see how Maya is so great that the demigods so intelligently they offer prayers, but later on when Krishna comes out and they see Krishna, they get bewildered. So is that correct understanding, or what is it? Because it seems like they cannot fall down because their prayers are so deep. So, is it possible that they can be steady?
Is it possible that what?
Is it really possible that one can be steady? Like if I offer a prayer like that and then I challenge Krishna, that seems contradictory, right?
Well, in Krishna's pastimes, the Yoga Maya potency is working. So, as living entities, we're affected by either Mahamaya or Yoga Maya. And we see in Krishna's pastimes that his devotees become bewildered in ways in which augment his pastimes and his relationships with them. Even Balaram, in the pastime of Krishna Brahma stealing away the calves and boys, didn't know what was going on, really. At first, he thought there was a lot of strange things happening in Vraj. Why is everybody acting like this? And he thought at first it must be some kind of maybe Rakshasa magic. Then he thought maybe it was a mystic yogi who was creating it. And then Krishna removed the layers of Yogamaya, and then he could see, oh, Krishna's doing this. So there's a way in which Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya, orchestrates these kinds of coverings. Maya javani kachanam ajnad hoksha jamavyayam nalakshase mudadrisha nato natya daro yata. He's an actor on a stage, Queen Kunti says. And sometimes people recognize him and others say, is that Krishna? They can't understand really what's going on because he's acting for his own pleasure. And and Yogamaya cooperates and covers in different ways. Even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Krishna simultaneously, he's omniscient, but at the same time, in Vraj, he can also be bewildered by Yogamaya, by his own desire, because that way the pastimes become more intimate. So when the demigods enter into these pastimes with Krishna, just like everybody else, there's ways in which, like, is that him? You sure? What's that? Where'd he go? And they get caught up in the spirit of the Leela. Reflection?
I was remembering the point where Prabhupada talks about the power and the powerful, and he says the materialistic people, they worship the power, but the transcendentalists worship the powerful.
Yeah.
I just happened to remember that and like that point.
I always remember when we were doing the Walmarts. Remember we were doing Walmart? Yeah, we were getting permits, and we were doing book distribution outside Walmart predominantly. Almost every MSF we'd go to Walmart. I went to one Walmart. I was out in front of the book table. I met these two young Indian gentlemen, and I was showing them a Krishna book and talking to them and stuff like that. And they had this real intense look, and he said, I'll show you who I worship. And he pulled out a picture of Shani. I worship Shani. And I was just thinking, like, I mean, no offense, Shani. But I was just thinking, how can somebody worship Shani after seeing the Bhagavad Gita and everything like that? But, people, Krishna talks about those who are worshiping demigods and everything, but I guess my point was, he was so intensely interested in Shani, he had this look in his eye, like, I'll show you who I worship. Shani, yeah, we're into Shani. So it requires, there's spiritual education that is necessary. That's why Krishna gives the Bhagavad Gita very succinctly, Purushottam Yoga, what is the ultimate object. And but not that many people read Bhagavad Gita, and some people read Bhagavad Gita and then they still intentionally misunderstand it, because there's this desire to enjoy the material world, and therefore Hrita Jnana, their intelligence is taken away by Maya, Krishna says. So then they worship all these other agents because there's some lust they want to independently enjoy from Krishna, but they miss everything, the Vilasa Bhaktya. So we've completed a yajna. All of you traveled at risk of your lives through the traffic to come all the way here, probably for the second night in a row this week, because there was a beautiful program here last night. I'm so deeply grateful that you came here to... I was thinking when I started reading, if nobody comes, I'll be happy to read the Krishna book. But as more and more devotees came and sat down, I was feeling greater happiness. And on a morning walk, I heard Prabhupada saying, he was having this dialogue with his devotees, and at the end he said, you see, this is rasa, this is enjoyment. If I was just by myself, I wouldn't be talking and having these exchanges. And he said, but when more people come, and this is how Krishna, he expands himself into unlimited living entities, and when they take an interest in him, and they do become closer and dance with Krishna, then the bliss just keeps increasing. Anandam buddhivardhanam. So thank you for increasing the ocean of bliss today. And we'll continue this as we inch our way towards the midnight hour when Krishna appears. Keep the name of Krishna always on your tongue, 24 hours a day, and always read the Bhagavatam within your circle, wherever you are, at work or at Google. You can read it at Google to all the people in your office. Or at home, keep the vibration going, and we'll keep praying for Krishna to reveal to us his lotus toes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for inspiring us through your purity and humility. Thank you.
I'll take that as a benediction. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.